The Turkish Cultural Foundation was a sponsor of both the film and the screening in New York. Our news team was on hand for the screening. Here are some highlights from the event.
Recently, filmmaker Victoria Barrett hosted a screening of her new film, A Journey of Faith, at the Lighthouse Theater in New York. The film traces events in the Bible to their origins in ancient Turkey. Here are some scenes from A Journey of Faith.
Today, millions of worshipers gather in churches all over the world. Yet, for many, there is a land forgotten, where East and West contend forever, and worship and war have carved the history of a faith. Discover this story by land, by sea, by air, as I travel through this land on my journey of faith.
Recently, Congressman Pete Sessions, chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee, met with members of the Turkish American community at an event organized by TC-USA PAC, which is a bipartisan political action committee. Here are some scenes from the event, which was to encourage Turkish Americans to be more politically active.
You have your own ideas about your country, you're Americans. You have seen much of the world more than most Americans, and can relate to a world that can become dysfunctional, a world that does not produce results, a world where bitter hatred and divide occurs. You've been a part and seen a world that also, from your perspective of being from Turkey, a very large economy. I don't know, 18th, 20th, 17th largest, 17th largest economy in the world. One that has a very close relationship with people around the world, including the United States of America. You made a choice, a decision to come to this country, and this country is better because of the decisions that you and other people have made to come here. I wish we could get to the point where when people came here, they would set aside their differences and simply go to being an American and making this country stronger. So I'm interested in engaging each of you, yes, as Turkish Americans, but I'm interested in engaging you on what our country's still going to look like. It's still just an experiment. I am interested in developing a closer relationship with you, not only to where every single Turkish American would strongly identify with the Republican Party, but I'm also interested in working with you on candidates, candidate training, identifying those young people, just like you. Very, very young people.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I think would help to bring Turkish Americans into the Republican Party, those Republican members who, let's say, co-signed the Armenian Genocide Resolution. Everyone understands why they co-signed, because of the intense pressure that they get from their Armenian American constituents. But if they would join the Turkish caucus to show, look, we're here to try to bridge the differences that we hear the Armenian Americans, we hear the Turkish Americans, but they're all Americans. They can.
Good point.
That would
help diffuse some of it.
Yes, and bring people together rather than dividing people. And this is, again, I think for the Turkish American community, you don't hear the hatred. They want to build bridges, and but there is discrimination right now. And I think under your leadership, if like Kevin and Dana, if they could become members of the Turkish caucus, and they can still retain their positions, but it shows that they're willing to hear the other perspectives. Okay?
Let's build bridges,
not walls.
Let's not go back and do something. This is very proactive, Bill, you talked about. That's very, very bad. But to go back and dissect history is a bad deal also.
For more on President Obama's visit to Turkey and other recent news, we're joined by Lydia Borland and Bruce Fine. Lydia and Bruce, welcome to A New World.
Thank you.
First question. Do you think President Obama's visit to Turkey will create a new era in U.S.-Turkish relations? Bruce?
I think there's likely to be more continuity than discontinuity. Lord Palmerston, a very famous British diplomat, once stated that countries have interests, not permanent friends or enemies. And it's largely going to be national interests that will dictate the ultimate relationships between the United States and Turkey. But I do think that the tone that President Obama displayed is going to be more constructive than the more bullying and arrogant tone of his predecessor in the White House. But I don't think that we should anticipate some new era like the dawning of a new sun in the relationship.
Lydia, what about you?
Turkish headlines today were screaming, "New era in U.S.-Turkish relations. Obama brings change." So I think very much the mood in Turkey is very positive. While Obama was in Turkey in Parliament and during question and answers period, he talked about a model partnership between the two countries. This is something that's never been used before. American presidents have talked about a strategic relationship, but a model partnership is something that he put forward, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of discussion in the next couple of weeks of what exactly that means.
Was President Obama's trip to Turkey successful? During his town hall meeting, do you think he connected with the students who attended?
I think not only in the town hall meeting, I think he was very successful speaking at the Turkish parliament. He did raise some sensitive issues, but he did also have some very positive messages that were reflected in the press the next day. He said the U.S. is not at war with Islam. The U.S. is at war with terrorism. He talked about working together to combat Al-Qaeda and PKK. And he talked about Turkish-Armenian relations and the rapprochement. So he made a lot of positive messages, and the second day, on Tuesday, he did meet with Turkish students, and he was asked very pointed questions. He did a good job answering them. You know, he's very poised and very articulate. So in terms of the image of the U.S., I think he was very successful in portraying a positive image of the U.S.
Bruce, what do you think?
Well, I don't want to rain on the party, but you remember similar kinds of euphoria emerged after the president and the vice president said they was pressing a reset button with Russia. And the reset button was pressed, and basically the same differences remain over the missiles in the Czech Republic and Poland, over South Ossetia, Abkhazia, and Georgia, over the strategic arm limitations talks, whether you admit Ukraine and Georgia into NATO, all those sorts of things. And I think that it can look as a short-term success with these great expectations. I don't want to draw the parallel too closely, but after Mr. Chamberlain returned from Munich in 1938, he was cheered, and this is a great success. We're obviously not at that situation here, but if you create expectations that are too high and don't put down clear understanding that there are going to be differences, I think you're creating a future that could be very rocky indeed.
But Bruce, you can't compare Turkey to Russia. Turkey's a NATO ally, and Turkey and the U.S. have many issues in which they're working with together. You really can't compare.
I wasn't trying to suggest at all that Turkey was estranged from the United States like Russia. I'm just saying that all the words in the world cannot overcome genuine differences, and I do think that there are differences that Turkey has with the United States over the Kurdistan regional government, what's going to happen in Iraq, what should be done in Afghanistan. These are genuine things, and obviously Iran is another issue that the two have some tension. What kind of economic relations there may be between the two. What about Nagorno-Karabakh? I don't want to say that these are insoluble, and these are differences that are routine between friends. But to suggest that now we've come to harmony and we can expect love sessions each time there's engagement, I think is going to set expectations that are going to be crushed.
President Obama made a point of expressing his support for Turkey's admission into the European Union, despite the opposition of a number of European countries. What do you see as the outcome regarding the EU accession?
Well, while he was in Europe for the NATO meetings, he did raise the EU issue with the French and the Germans, and the French and Germans rebuffed him and basically said that it would backfire. But remember that it was the Bush administration also that pushed Europe on making Turkey a candidate country. And although they protested, at the end they made Turkey a candidate country, and it wouldn't have happened without U.S. intervention. So although the Europeans complain about U.S. intervention, it does have an impact, I really do believe. But there's a fine line between being effective and backfiring, and it's very important to find that balance. Right now, I think the Europeans are more open to President Obama than they were to President Bush.